90% of the female audience was in love with Loki,
That's
the
true.
very skinny, pale-looking gentleman.
That point I wanted to bring to the Billie Eilish that say that everybody is okay with men, where that's not true.
There's never been a female equivalent of the dad bod.
The best model and the best model from female and male, that difference is stark. It's unbelievable how much it is. That's fine.
He's fine.
Okay.
Cheers,
Right,
bitch.
bitch. Cheers. The atmosphere of modern day society has created an illusion of moral, philosophical, and social lines in between what's right and what's wrong. We examine those lines in latest topics and controversies. My name is Aleks.
I'm Erin.
Let's begin.
All right, so very controversial topic today because Aleks and I are really not seeing eye to eye. Billie Eilish, her latest Vanity Fair article. For those of you who do not know, I will read a quote for you from the actual article so that we are all caught up. So she was essentially talking about body image, body shaming, things that she's experienced through life. And she was quite exasperated by the time that she had gotten to this part where she was saying, I have big boobs. I have had big boobs since I was 9 years old, and that's just the way I am. That's how I look. She became exasperated as she recalls the media frenzy when she first dared to wear a tank top in public at the age of 16. You wear something that's at all revealing, and everyone's like, oh, but you don't want people to sexualize you. She scoffs and answers the trolls, you can suck my ass. I'm literally a being that is sexual sometimes. Fuck you. And then, as she's quite fired up, she says, nobody ever says a thing about men's bodies. If you're muscular, cool. If you're not, cool. If you're rail thin, cool. If you have a dad bod, cool. If you're pudgy, love it. Everybody's happy with it. You know why? Because girls are nice. They don't give a fuck because we see people for who they are. Now, I fully understand where Billie Eilish is coming from, but I will give you the floor, Aleks. Please.
Okay.
Share with us your thoughts on Billie Eilish's interview.
Yeah, I absolutely understand where she comes from. I think it's quite it's also a very touchy subject for a lot of people, because as we discussed previously over and over again, that sexual violence and in general violence against women is very real thing, and abuse
very high.
And it's very high, and it is just sad that we're living in that society that that is so ravaging around.
Yeah,
it's true.
It's very sad.
And with that being said, she's also not wrong the fact that she sometimes is a sexual being. She wants to show herself for who she is, and she wants to feel good as herself, and it's a good thing. And if she wants to feel sexy, that's a good thing. That's amazing. However, I also want to kind of bring down the situation about saying that men don't receive that kind of feedback. Yes, we do. It comes in a very different way. So women tend to receive the kind of the sexualization especially from men in a very direct manner, and very looks or something like that. From man's perspective, the sexualization comes in a very different manner. Usually comes from a man themselves as well, where if you're too fat or too thin, you get bullied. And that, I think, comes from the same place, just in a different perspective. From women's perspective, would come as a sexualization. From men's perspective, it comes as you would just get bullied for that. And look, I'm a good example of that, because I was by sheer piece of luck the youngest person in the kind of the block that I would hang out with, and I would be 2 years behind the youngest guy from that group. So I was significantly smaller just by the sheer fact that I was 9 when they were 11. Majority of them were 12. So it's like that's how it goes. And I really understand that you play the same game. And me being adult now, looking at it and being like, oh, the cards were stacked already at that stage, that I wasn't as physical as they were. And all the games as young boys play would be, and probably, maybe it's just really my kind of upbringing thing. But that really struck a chord, because I was like, oh my gosh, I literally been in the skin of people who like, hey, you were like weak, not good enough, too light, too slow, blah, blah, blah. Just because I was there for the kind of it. And it's not a good thing. And I feel like that to create a conversation, we should definitely understand where Billie Eilish comes from, because that's a real issue. Okay. But also to see the other perspective and be like, oh, that is also maybe not okay. Or maybe if it is okay, how do we make sure that we manage it safely where everybody comes out better rather than not?
Okay. I think that is fair and valid. And I am in no way suggesting that men don't go through some form of body shaming or, feeling physical pressures about having particular body types. Absolutely, that is a real thing. That I am in no way dismissing that. In your particular example here, who was it that was pressuring you?
All the peers.
Men.
Yeah, that's true. No,
and
absolutely.
In the media, who is it that puts pressure on women being these sexual beings?
I see where you're going with it.
Well, I'm just saying,
okay,
if there's a root of a problem here...
That's true. I understand.
Who is it?
I understand. However, at the same time, when you really start to examine the situation, for example, I had, who would be most successful with women out of my group of friends? Well, the tallest, the strongest, the most charismatic ones.
That's absolutely proven incorrectly.
Well, that's how it was.
So this comes down to
me.
Potentially, and that is often a myth that men continually perpetuate, is this idea of the male gaze. Men look at other men in the gym and they think that women are very attracted to very muscular, very built, when in actuality, that's not the female gaze.
That's true.
And this is scientifically proven at this point.
That's
true. So I just want you to understand, you're feeling that body pressure from other men.
That's true.
Now, women feel pressure of being sexualized from other men. So I think this is inherently a problem with society on a men's level and how we raise men.
Okay.
But to go back to what Billie Eilish was talking about and saying, girls are nice, they don't give a fuck. It's just, we love you for who you are, and we don't put that kind of pressure on men. I understand what it is that she is saying. Because if you look at, which I did, every person who is voted by the, I believe it's People magazine, as the sexiest person alive, if you look at everyone who has ever been nominated in the history of ever, they always vote a sexiest woman alive, sexiest male alive. Do you know who the winner for the men is this year?
No.
It is Jason Kelce.
Okay.
Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift's boyfriend. His brother.
Okay.
Who's also a football player.
Yeah.
But he plays center. He's a big boy.
Okay.
And he has what we traditionally refer to as a dad bod. He is dad bod out the wazoo.
Okay.
And he is voted sexiest man alive.
That's great.
I know. It's amazing.
Yeah.
My point is that I absolutely do think both socially and within media, men are given a very large variety of body types that are considered desirable, sexual, glorified, versus
I see where you're going.
the body types that women are allowed to have. So if you look at every woman that has ever been voted sexiest woman alive, you are going to get your Halle Berrys. You're going to get your Cindy Crawfords. You're going to get your Julia Roberts. You're going to get your Jessica Albas. You're going to get every woman that's ever been nominated. Michelle Pfeiffer. All thin.
Okay.
All thin, all beautiful, all very Hollywood female pretty.
Okay.
Whereas in Hollywood for men, you have everything from Jason Kelsey being dad bod, not only acceptable, but being praised as being sexy. Then you have like Timothy Chalamet, who is tiny.
True. Yeah.
He is thin. He
He's
is
thin. Yeah, that's
bones. True. Then you have Henry Cavill, who's quite big and massive.
Yeah.
You have so many varieties of body frame and body type that is not only acceptable for men within media and within Hollywood, but is praised in a way for being sexy. Can you please tell me what is the female equivalent of a dad bod, and where have you ever seen it praised or sexualized?
It's I understand what you're coming from, and I don't think it would be very, how would I say, the trend does change, and you can see it with man's body as well, coming to from like, you know, Timothy Chalamet to Giga Chad, really. Like, it's just like, it's progressing, it's
and they're
changing.
all considered sexy,
and it's
they're
true.
All praised.
I don't think they're considered sexy by the same people at the same time, kind of thing. No, it's
would
like
100% so.
People do evolve.
Do you not remember the Thor movie? I think it was Thor of Ragnarok, and how every man thought that like Thor was the epitome of what a sexy man was, when in reality, 90% of the female audience was in love with Loki,
That's
the
true.
very skinny, pale-looking gentleman.
But
so this is like just the stark contrast between what is male considered like the female gaze versus what actually is the female gaze.
I know it, and I absolutely agree with you on that. That could be really a point of where we start. What I kind of started on is that you get, as Loki, you would still get bullied by other men. At the same time,
men.
Just imagine you are the Thor in that situation, and you're not bullied by other men, but you're not clearly chosen by other women because they're in love with Loki. It's kind of, from your perspective as man, would be like, that's a lose.
Is that not an issue with men?
Well,
if men are the ones that are bullying other men for not being big and strong, whereas women are very happy to accept a man with a dad bod or a man who looks like
could
Loki.
Be that. Yeah, could be that. And I assume
is that not a male issue that needs to be addressed? So, Philip DeFranco, I love you. I've watched you, long-time fan. But you discussed this Billie Eilish thing, and you were you were talking about how you very much you in your own personal journey, having gone through weight loss and had quite a lot of like body dysmorphia of your own, and feeling lots of shaming, which is not to like not account for that or dismiss that in any way. What you felt was valid. What you felt is real. And 100% it happened. What I'm saying is, vast majority of the world as a whole, I think media as well, are more accepting of different variety of men's bodies than they are of women's bodies.
Okay.
But I think most of that pressure comes from men. So I think, and he did address some valid points, which I will say. He was talking about how short men are often like given a really bad time in regards towards like females and their quote unquote sexual attraction.
It could be,
But
and there are probably a lot of females who are attracted to shorter men rather than not. That's just the
Well,
reality.
that's my point. I think that women are much more accepting of these other body types. I mean, look at Zendaya. She's dating Tom Hiddleston, who is not Tom Hiddleston. You know who, Spider-Man. Can't think of his name right now. Yeah. She's dating him.
Tom Holland.
Holland, thank you. And he's much shorter than she is.
Okay.
She's very tall. Like I'm saying, these kinds of pairings, these kinds
They're
of
like
things
half a head
happen quite. Yeah, this happens very often. I think, and it's oftentimes women who are making that exception. Whereas I think, I don't know if you knew about I don't know their name. I should have looked it up, but there was this very famous TikTok couple. One is like a very larger woman, who is, overweight, dating a very buff, attractive, cut man. Okay. And the world lost their mind about it, saying, sending her comments, he's going to leave you. Because I'd say that pairing is significantly less common. It's very often women who will date men significantly with less symmetry and golden and perfect bodies. Because I do think women are overall more accepting. So when you're talking about your bullying and it coming from men.
Well, we were about men, and that's I see where you're coming from, and your point is very strong. And don't get me wrong here. I don't try to argue with the point that you're making it with. What I'm trying to say is that we are in the society we got from somewhere where we right now judge it as the way it is, and there are lots of men who judge by the size, the shape, the power, the strength. For one reason or another. Within that being said, I will be very careful at pointing out how the society as a whole as well moving, which direction it moves. And we are lucky in a Western society to be reasonably accepting of pretty much whatever people throw at us. And we really try, and it's a good thing that we do. It's a good. However, when you get society, for example, I learned 10 days ago, one of my coworkers is traveling back to India to get married. She got basically exiled of her family by a wish to travel to New Zealand to live in New Zealand. And now she got summoned back because she's getting married to this guy. And I asked her, how's that, okay with you? That's not okay.
Oh, is she betrothed?
But no.
She doesn't know him.
She doesn't know him.
So she's betrothed.
So she's basically it's an arranged marriage, basically as it is. And she's that's very common. The idea is your family looks at your income and family's income, looks at your husband's income, and it has to be more than you are as your income. And then the husband may be accepted if he's considered to be good enough. So he might be a good looking or a good person or something, but by your family he earns more and he's good enough. And so I'm that's our conversation right now makes me think about it, that we might be living not only in the hangover of what we potentially had as a Western society, but deep in our minds.
Arranged marriages is still very common today.
That's a thing.
And it's not just in India.
Maybe,
Arranged marriages are oftentimes through aristocratic and wealthy families. True. You can't just date whoever you want. If you're a billionaire in America, you will have to date or look at the royal family. Yes, you can only date within a certain inner circle.
And how bad it
arranged marriages still very common.
My point was, she was very clear to say that the husband's family / the husband has to be more wealthy than a woman and woman's family. Okay. And it's an interesting kind of point of contention. Maybe that's where our hangover now comes from, where...
So you were saying that arranged marriages are a hangover, and
Yes.
you think that is impacting.
No. We are in the Western society right now having a hangover from that time of arranged marriages and kind of blah blah blah, where man's family would be judged by the women's family, because women's family would be something to trade, which is their daughter, which is very fucking sad, but it would be a
you
trade.
mean a dowry?
Exactly.
So you're looking, yes, dowry
and
is
again,
still like
and
hangover.
So
Yeah.
therefore you cannot expect that the society would be absolutely okay with whatever man it is and just concentrate onto what a woman is not. That point I wanted to bring to the Billie Eilish, that say that everybody is okay with men, where that's not true.
She's referring specifically to body image. But I also...
Yes, but it's not... Everything is about the body image. And
No,
that's
but
kind of
she
me
is
trying
talking
to
about how men, if you're pudgy, great. If you're skinny, cool. If you're muscular, fine. But women are put through the ringer in regards to how they need to look. Especially in Hollywood. Another point on this that I wanted to make is now it is extremely frowned upon, societally speaking, but it still takes place. But it was so prevalent, it would be on like Entertainment Tonight kind of news, where there would be countdown clocks. For example, Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, or Emma Watson from Harry Potter, who played Hermione, along with several other female actresses or models. There would be actual websites, and it would be on the news, a countdown to the time that they turned 18 and were legal to be like sexualized. There would be public countdown clocks waiting for them to turn 18. I cannot recall in any point of my life there being a countdown clock waiting for a man, a little boy, to turn 18. So it's just another factor of how much sexual attention is often placed on women, but not just women, on little girls.
That's true.
And how common it is for, especially within Hollywood, for little girls to be like so hypersexualized. So I was reading a story the other day about Jerry Seinfeld. When he was 47 years old, famous comedian, he was on the TV show Seinfeld. When he was 47, 48 years old, he was walking through the park and met a girl who was 17 years old, roller skating, and fell in love with her and started dating her before she turned 18 and would pick her up from high school. And he was 47 years old. That was commonplace. If you look at Demi Lovato and her recent song that came out talking about turning 29. When Wilmer Valderrama was 29 years old, he dated her when she was 17. I could not fathom wanting to touch a 17-year-old in any sort of sexual manner. Like, it doesn't cross my mind. But it happens so often. So, I mean, like, you could list off hundreds of moments of where older men dated these young girls. So I think there is more sexual pressure. And I know that Billie Eilish specifically chose to wear baggy clothes, like sweatshirts, baggy pants, as a teenager because she didn't want to be sexualized. And that's fair enough, because that's a terrifying thing for a child to experience. But then once she was older and in her early 20s, she did, what's the really big song where she's like screaming on a roof in the rain and it's great? I just can't think of the song right now. Happier Than Ever. Happier Than Ever.
Okay.
She did Happier Than Ever. And while like working on that album and kind of promoting that album, she chose to like become quite embracing of her sexuality. So she wore tight-fitting clothing that was like really like showing off her very voluminous chest and that kind of thing, and embraced it. And the world kind of had a field day because she had like pushed it off for so long. But she felt comfortable as an adult to embrace that. So I do understand where she's coming from. Like, sexiest man alive, dad bod. What woman has ever been named sexiest woman of the year that has like whatever the equivalent of a dad bod is for a woman? We don't have an equivalent because it's not acceptable.
I see where you coming from with it. I do think that in at large as male goes, it's going to be a little bit different to what society will decide as the sexiest man alive is. I would really, or the sexiest woman alive is. Sorry, there would really be some difference. However,
I secretly, and I could be wrong, I think that there are like male CEOs and male editors and stuff in charge of this shit. And they go, no, she's not. She could never be sexiest woman alive. She's fat. I want her because she's...
Probably.
I think a lot of it stems from men. And I think it comes down to societal, like, way men are raised and taught to believe. And, like, it comes into that toxic masculinity of, you know, men shove your feelings down.
Could be.
You have to be the strongest. You have to be the fastest. You have to be the toughest. You have to be big. And you have to be... And it's all male stimulated. Whereas women don't really care. If you're chubby, cool. We're still gonna like you.
Okay. I know that would be rather optimistic to say. For the reason of the fact that woman to woman, not violence as it is, even though it is violence, which is much more passive rather than aggressive in that sense, still exists, and you're bloody vicious to each other.
I agree, but I think that has died dramatically.
You think
since
so?
Me Too movement. I think
so?
I think since 2015, women are now like positioning each other to build each other up. Okay. And if you publicly go on a platform and you shame another woman and you talk bad about another woman, it is not received well publicly anymore. It used to be. And I agree. And it had a lot to do with a hangover from our traditional society where women had no power in the house. So they had to learn how to become manipulative and conniving and secretly like controlling things and a puppet master behind the scenes in order to get anything they wanted done. And they had to work a lot harder because they couldn't just come up front and say, hey, I want it this way. So that just like built and grew into our society, and I think that has dramatically died down in the last decade.
I would be very hopeful that this is true. At the same time, I would be very skeptical of that being true for that exact reason, that we're still living in a very polarized society, a society that is very online and very like, and you would see it comments in some of the videos and they would be just like black and white, and everybody would be arguing.
Have you seen something recently?
That's legit from women to women.
Yeah. Violence
in that sense. I haven't. However, I'll have to admit that I'm very much outside of that. I'm not like in high school anymore, you know, or even university.
You're not in the target market.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm also not in a large group of people to sit down and look at 100 women and how they communicate to each other. I really am not.
I would say that 100% of women have experienced that from another woman. However, I think what has happened is technology's grown so quickly and so rapidly once smartphones were essentially in everyone's hand and we had social media, so say back in 2010, 2011, 2012, girls that were in middle school and high school, cyberbullying shot through the roof. And I think cyberbullying is still huge in kids' mentalities today. But I think by the time you develop into an adult, you understand how harmful and you experience those effects. So I think that like that dies down and is now no longer publicly acceptable. If you were to post a video and like bully another girl in that video, you would be ripped to shreds and probably lose your job. That's what Redditors do now. They just go and like find you and you have nowhere to go.
That this is the reality, but it's true because it is it's a vicious cycle that we enter, because there are both sides to the argument there, and there's women who bully women, there's men who bully women, there's women who bully men, and there's men who bully men. And what we're really arguing about, and me trying to kind of concise it together right now, is that there is more men who bully men rather than the women who bully men.
Yeah.
And that's probably true.
I think so.
My argument and my kind of what I try to put forward is to say that women do not bully men is not true.
I'm not saying that women don't bully men.
And that's why I think
I'm saying
Billie
is
Eilish's statement, I think, just jumps a little too hopeful.
I disagree, because what she actually said was she said nobody ever says a thing about men's bodies. If you're muscular, cool. If you're not, cool. If you're rail thin, cool. If you have a dad bod, cool. If you're pudgy, love it. Everybody's happy with it. You know why? Because girls are nice. They don't give a fuck, because we see people for who they are.
I think that's way too general. I think there's going to be a man who's going to say you're too skinny, you're too fat, you have way too much muscle on you, you are too hairy,
will be a man.
You are too... But there's going to be a woman as well.
I would.
That's what I think.
I agree, but I think that is now such a small percentage.
Could be, but at the same time, that generalization...
I'm not invalidating. Like, for sure, men go through, like, body bullying, 100%. I'm just saying, I think that women overall in general are significantly more accepting of whatever type of body you have. We praise all types of bodies. We don't discriminate against those types of bodies.
Okay.
And I do think that women are put under the pressure. So if we were to look, these are all of the women that have ever won Most Beautiful Women in the World. You have everything from Catherine Zeta-Jones, skinny. You have Nicole Kidman, skinny. You have Halle Berry, skinny. Like, all of these, Angelina Jolie. Yeah. Name one...
Angelina Jolie had a time in her life when she was just not healthy by any stretch of imagination.
Well, yeah, I mean, like you can see the...
Look at her, this is not okay.
Drew Barrymore, skinny. Yeah. Christina Applegate, skinny. Yeah. Jennifer Lopez, skinny. Beyonce, quite skinny. Gwyneth Paltrow, very skinny. She's like a stick. So you look at every woman, ever.
Okay.
There's never been a female equivalent of the dad bod, is what I'm saying. And I'm saying we celebrate dad bods. We look at it, and women genuinely are, like, poor Kylie Kelsey. She is going to have to battle all of these women coming for her husband. And she's already, like, mentioned it on the podcast. Like, I will, you know? Because women find Jason Kelsey so fucking attractive.
That's true.
And he is dad bod to hell. Please tell me, what is the female equivalent of that? That is celebrated as well, not just in society, but in media. What is the female equivalent?
And your question would win 1,000 arguments over. Yeah. I think. What I'm trying to put forward is just a tidbit different, and it's the fact that man who would be chosen by give majority of the women would still not receive all the women praise for that body.
Of course.
And therefore saying that
but
women
no woman,
are all acceptant.
No woman
would.
Even these most beautiful women in the world, they would come across men that aren't interested.
Exactly. But that's why I think that generalization is way too general to say that all women are subjected to this and men are not subjected to this.
No. Men are absolutely subjected.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that doesn't exist. What I'm saying is that you will find successful stories from men in all categories, whereas you will only find successful women in one singular category. And that's the issue. And women feel that in Hollywood more so than anywhere else, because Hollywood scrutinizes the fuck out of you.
It's true.
And majority of newspapers and media is run by men who are going to scrutinize you.
Hollywood is not an easy example. But speaking of the Madame, she's now dropped so much. A lead actress who is a comedian, and the nowadays she's like razor thin now. Ridiculous. She played in Hustle.
Anne Hathaway.
No, the other one, who was quite pudgy, and now she's like skinny as hell.
Who was in Hustle? I just know Anne Hathaway from that movie.
Yeah. So there was.
It's been a while since I've seen it.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Queen Latifah?
No. Oh, there she is. Rebel Wilson.
Was she in Hustle?
I think she was in Hustle. Unless I'm just wrong.
I don't think she...
The Hustle, sorry.
Okay.
Is that important V there?
Yeah.
The Hustle. Rebel Wilson.
Seen it.
And you'll see if you Google The Hustle, you'll see the image.
Yeah.
That's her in The Hustle.
Yeah.
If
she's
you Google,
yes. So
if you Google her right now,
yes,
she's like skin and bone.
Yes. So in 2020, she was trying to conceive a child with her husband. You have to agree, because she also agrees, she was at a very unhealthy weight. She was morbidly obese, and the doctor told her she is not going to be able to conceive a child unless she loses weight. She went on a health journey in 2020 and just literally every day working out, everything she could do so that her and her husband could conceive. And she was like talking about it, because she was quite confident and happy as she was at her weight. For her, it had nothing to do with that, and everything with wanting to have a baby.
Yeah. No, that's great. No, what my point kind of was that there are still, as much as there is an argument for the fact that we are very way too over reliant onto a skinny, curvy woman.
Well,
there are also examples like Rebel Wilson, who was successful prior to her getting...
She was successful, but her body never would have been praised or considered one of the top sexiest women of the year.
No.
Before she lost the weight. Whereas Jason Kelsey, full on dad bod.
I agree with you.
Sexiest man.
That's where I agree with you. So, and that's where really the argument will probably lean into, is to how you succeed regarding a body image, and that's probably where I would say that women are generally more looked at from the body image perspective than men.
It's sad.
True.
But
it's sad.
I think
Yeah.
that all of this pressure,
Yeah.
both for men and for women,
Yeah.
I would say majority of that pressure comes from men. I think
Could be.
most men,
could be.
as you said, bully each other.
Could be.
I think women feel this pressure not from other women, but from
Men. Could
And
be.
I think media is so male dominated that the only reason that women are praised as being sexy is because I could be wrong, but I think it's probably men at the editor and the CEO and whatever choosing that. Okay. So they fix their idea of what a beautiful woman is, whereas men, be a little more lenient.
It's true, and I would be careful with the corporate world, because corporate world wants to ride the sales perspective, and they would probably much rather try to please even if they don't agree, just because they're corporate.
That is okay. So this is another issue is voting with your dollar. So you are going to sell more magazines with a beautiful woman on top of it.
That's a thing, yeah.
Who is skinny. But the reason that sells more is because we are told as younger people that is what is beautiful. So if you stop telling people that's what's beautiful, you're going to sell lots of magazines with whoever on the cover, as long as it's an interesting person and people care about them. Like, if Rebel Wilson was having lots of, family drama or husband drama or something like that, and it had nothing to do with looks, the magazines would be flying out the door talking about her life, because that's what people, pay with their dollar.
That's the thing.
And that's another, women are currently paying.
That's true. I will also point out that leads to, as much as it leads to abuse and not a healthy relationship with the media and with the Hollywood, with everything, you also look at salaries that women models receive versus salaries that male models receive. And it's not just 10 to 1, it's ridiculous. The best model and the best model from female and male, that difference is stark. It's unbelievable how much it is. So on one hand, maybe it is very much our fault within society to not be able to be accepted enough, or maybe it's somewhere in our biology that we are
I would say at the exact same time, if you look at where the highest paid male actors are in every movie versus all of the highest female. Again, Jennifer Lawrence was the only one who came close to bridging that gap. But if you look at it for I don't know what movie it was, but she has become the most paid female actress, and it's very close to where men are paid, but she was one of the first and only. So you look at men across the board, you look at all of the top male Hollywood stars, across the board they're paid so much more versus what women actors are paid.
And it's then we can really switch into that kind of difference in pay, and that could be a separate podcast in itself. What I kind of try to stay within is that body image and body thing perspective is, and that it's true. And
I think that goes into it.
Yeah, some of it might really go into it. That's true. I would be very careful at saying that women are accepting of everything and men are not accepting.
I'm not saying that for every woman. There's obviously bitches out there that don't accept whatever. There's going to be mean people of both species, the male and female, in the world.
That's true.
What I'm saying is, majority of women
could be
quite accepting. And I would say majority of men are more scrutinizing.
Okay.
Of not only other women, but of other men.
What if I try to rephrase your phrase? Would you be agreeing with me here? Majority of women are enjoying different types of body than majority of men are enjoying the same body type.
That's what I just said.
Would you? Okay. So then, because that what could mean, women could be as scrutinizing as they are. However, because all women would be divided into 100 different types that they like, it would be feeling like it's a less scrutinizing.
No, I don't think that women are as scrutinizing. I think at the end of the day, you will see this, as I talked about, in majority of relationships. You will see these stunning women with maybe not so conventionally attractive men. And I think that's quite common. And I would say that is 5 billion% more common than it is to
Then
see
the
a
opposite way
very
around?
conventionally attractive man with an unconventionally attractive female.
Yeah.
I would say it would be hard pressed for
Yeah.
you to even compare.
Okay.
Stark
Okay.
difference. Stark
Um,
difference.
Here, though, I would be again very careful to say that that would be a problem of men or a problem of women. I think that's that we're in a very dangerous territory.
No, I think
There we
it's,
go. Yeah.
I think it's a overall problem. I'm not like blaming men. I think it is how society raises men. So I think that
Could
men
be.
are contributing to the problem,
be.
but they're not the cause. They're the like symptom. Men's scrutiny of bodies is a symptom of a problem we have with society.
Could be, yeah, that's true. No, it could be
Yeah.
that's true. And again, women to woman violence could be a cause of exactly the same issue.
Oh, for sure
Could
it
be.
was. 100%.
Or it could be not anymore. And what I'm trying to say that this is such a difficult body to reconcile. And from my perspective, before you try to close off, is that Billie Eilish's statement in this sense rather generalizing too much than trying to actually point out at the healthy problem that we have, that we really need to solve. The
Okay.
floor is to you.
I think it's definitely a problem we do need to solve. And I do think that she might have spoken general terms and maybe should have acknowledged that they were general terms. But I do think it is something that women feel more, and especially in Hollywood.
Okay.
And that's it.
Then we'll take it at that. The alarm has sounded a little while ago, so I wanted to just close off on the fact that if YouTube is not your thing, please follow us on any other podcast platform such as Apple Podcast. It's all available out there. We are on Instagram, TikTok, and on Threads as well. By the way, follow Threads. I do like to comment on people's ideas, especially if they're quite edgy and quite divisive. I do tend to put my very trying to calm everybody down perspective. Within that being said, thank you so much for following us. 10% of any profits that if we ever gonna make one, is gonna go to Effective Altruism in New Zealand, because we try to make some difference in this world as well. But otherwise, we will see you next week on another episode. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.